Welcome to the Courting Happiness podcast. This is a space where self-care becomes part of your day. A space where you learn evidence-based strategies to help your life, share it with those you love, and cultivate well-being at work. I'm your host, Dr. Kortni Alston. I'm a former news director, television reporter turned happiness scholar, TEDx speaker, and transformational trainer. I also understand hardships. While working my dream job in television, I lived a nightmare suddenly becoming a young widow after 86 days of marriage. I became committed to learning more about resilience, healing, and happiness. This is how I discovered my area of research, which is positive psychology. Now I'm living my calling of training individuals and organizations on happiness. And my new chapter begins with being happily engaged. The Courting and Courting Happiness is about a true courtship. I like to say commitment with happiness. The K in courting stands for the vulnerability of sharing my story, inspirational interviews with phenomenal people, the infusion of positive psychology, and so much more. You'll learn how to commit to your well-being one episode at a time. I hope you subscribe and share. So, are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome to episode 38. Today, we're going to talk about my top 3 musts for self-care. That's right. My top 3 musts for self-care. And I will say this, I live by these. These are things that I do that are truly a part of my routine and also a part of really my day-to-day, yes, but this my being, right? Just really, it speaks to who I am and what I really value. And on top of the fact that we're going to talk about the top 3, really the things that that are musts that I live by, and also how you can get them too. So let's start by the fact that I've talked about this often. I will admit, my hand is up right now. I talk about this a lot. I've talked about this, I would say, if I said several times, it would really be an understatement. It focuses on my favorite positive activity. And I'll give you a moment to think if you might kind of guess what it is. I bet you know. It's gratitude. It's gratitude, right? I talk about it all the time on this podcast. On episode 2, I talked about the science of gratitude. On episode 3 and 9, I talked about debunking the myths about gratitude. On episode 13, I talked about how we could level it up. And today, I want to share with you what I love to leverage and give to others. So this is really a special episode because I'm giving you really an inside look in regards to what I truly also value on a personal level. And then also at the very end, you hear about a personal story that is all about how it has also helped in regards to my relationship. And I'll talk about that as well. So let's talk more about my favorite subject, which is all things gratitude. So my number 3 is by Dr. Robert Emmons. I really value his work. I talk about him often. And he is, again, one of our favorite authors, but also one of the leading scholars as it relates to gratitude. The book that I'm talking about, this one is titled Thanks, How Practicing Gratitude Can Make You Happier. And, Emmons really does a wonderful job in regards to always allowing us to really process, understand, and value gratitude. The book is never too far away from my library that I actually like to refer to as my happiness library, because I'm always taking it off the shelf and making my way to my desk with this book. All right. And it's actually spent many a nights on my nightstand as well. I value the chapter on gratitude in trying times. I treasure this chapter because it speaks so much to loss. As you heard in the intro, for any of you who may be new to the Courting Happiness podcast, welcome, by the way. I'm so happy that you're here. You heard a little bit about my life in that intro, right? And it talked about how I became a widow after 86 days of marriage. And so I, as a widow, I really value this chapter in regards to talking about gratitude when you're dealing with trying times, loss, adversity. So this is something that I want to share with you as a quote. For those of you who are new, I love quotes. Even my students will tell you that. I start every lecture with a quote, and even when I do training sessions with clients and other communities, and I love just quotes because I think that quotes are so impactful in regards to being able to give us a snapshot and really also being able to inspire us. So this is Emmons, and he says this quote, some blessings are not known until they are lost. Losing a value role or goal in life may lead the person to increase the value that they see in other aspects of their life. That's aspects of their life, end quote. So, I mean, that in itself says so much. Is interesting because when I'm asked about being a happiness scholar, what does happiness mean, and there's always an assumption because I am a very cheerful person. I love smiling. I'm known for my smile. I treasure that even when I was a little girl. I feel like my smile was kind of bigger than me on on occasions, you know. But I think when I tell an individual that it doesn't mean that I am happy 24 hours a day. And it's interesting. I often say that hardships allow me to really treasure happiness. So when I've gone through negative events or dealing with adversity or dealing with loss, it's allowed me to truly treasure what I have that is in front of me. And so I can even see that in regards to when I lost my mom uh, back in 2016. And I remember driving to the hospital and calling a friend. And she told me how this could be an amazing experience for me if I open my mind to it. And I really appreciated those words because I am now so grateful for the fact that I, was there uh, at my home, at my parents' home, my childhood, well, sort of my childhood home. My parents retired to the Atlanta, Georgia area here in the United States, and even though I didn't grow up in the house, for some reason, I feel like I did. I feel like it's always been a part of me, but my childhood homes are actually in New Jersey. But they've probably lived there, if I could guess at this point. Oh, maybe. I know it's definitely over 15 years or so. Um, and so I feel so connected to that house. But to go back to what experience happened there, I remember when it was time for my mother to transition, and the doctor allowed us to bring her home. And she was able to peacefully die at home. And I remember sitting at her bedside and literally on her deathbed. And I remember those conversations. And I like cracking jokes. So I remember making my mother laugh quite a few times. And so my friend, to go back in terms of that car ride, when I was on the phone with her, she's so right. I was able to treasure those moments because I was grateful for those moments, even though I knew I was about to, you know, say goodbye. I was about to see my mother now transition. And I am so grateful, really, for the courage of that friend of mine. That because when you're going through loss and you're grieving, that can be really an interesting state or stage, a dynamic, right? No matter whatever or however you're processing it or however you feel with all those examples I just gave, it's always wonderful when you have friends that trust and love you and are sharing information because they love you. And they're sharing information, understanding and seeing you and your feelings. So she was the perfect person to share that with me. And I really value that she did. So Emmons is right? When we hear this story of going on that car ride to the hospital and eventually another ride back home with my mother to peacefully die there. Evans is so right when he talks about how some blessings are not known until they are lost. And losing a value role or goal in life may lead the person to increase the value that they see in other aspects of their life. And I really treasure for the fact that I sit here valuing gratitude because I live it. My friends would say, yes, she loves to tell us how grateful she is. She'll text us, she'll send us a message. I think it's wonderful to live in that space. So I really love the book. Thanks. And Emmons in terms of his work in this area. I also truly value the book in regards to the fact that its depth in terms of talking about gratitude and of how to practice it and what that looks like, which brings me to number 2, which is another book by Emmons. I'm sure you're not surprised at this point, right? Again, him being one of the leading scholars in this area, but I just love his work in terms of how he shares and the conceptualization and I really value how he defines and shares all of these different activities for us to learn and to live by. So I've talked about this book though countlessly. And this is a book that lives not too far away from me, no matter where I am. If I'm matter of fact, I am when I was on my computer earlier today, I go, oh, let me go look for the right there. It's right there next to me. It's literally never too far away. And it's called The Little Book of Gratitude. That's it. The Little Book of Gratitude. This book may truly be small, and it is small, guys. It seriously is the size of my hand, but it has a big impact in terms of research, activities, and again, sharing the value of the science of gratitude. The message of this book is about creating a life of happiness and well-being by giving thanks. The book focuses on why gratitude matters. And I love that it breaks down the terms of it in terms of the research, and it literally has it at your fingertips. You'll find the benefits of gratitude in this section. And also, what's interesting, many of the things that you've learned from previous podcast episodes, you will see elements of this in this book. It really speaks to how often I love to refer to it. I love to also share it. I've given it as gifts to friends, and also being able to really, really just spend even more time with gratitude, especially if I'm on the go, because it's great in terms of being a quick read as well. So it shares how gratitude reduces stress. And we've talked about this too in previous episodes in terms of gratitude is related to 23% lower levels of stress hormones, right? It's related to 10% of improvement in sleep And in several activities that the book also has, it has one that is called Some Do's and Don'ts. And it says, do acknowledge the emotions you feel, which I really treasure because it's about honoring your feelings. The other is, do not compare yourself to others. Love that, because that again is talking about social comparison, which is something we've also talked about previously. This book mentions how keeping a gratitude diary for 2 weeks has produced reduced levels in stress. And this is for a study that focused in on healthcare practitioners, which leads to really my favorite gratitude activity, which leads us into completing our top three with number one, and that is having a gratitude jar. In episode 5, yes, I believe it was, yes, episode 5, my fiance is interesting. Some of these episodes that are past episodes, I will know as if I'm my own search engine. And this is episode 5, where my phenomenal fiance, Ken Lemon, and I talked about how gratitude, and really how the gratitude jar is what happens to be one of our favorite activities. And then we also talk about in that episode how it served us in our relationship, and also as it relates to how much we treasure gratitude. So if you haven't had an opportunity to listen to that episode, I highly recommend listening. And if you're a couple out there who is in a long distance relationship, that episode is for you, because when Ken and I lived 296 miles away, yep, I counted 296 miles away. I remember the exact number of miles he and I would only see each other on the weekends. And it's interesting because the weekend was, it felt long because I was so happy to see him, but then it felt short because I was like, oh, he's going. And so Sundays were our dreaded days. We used to call them in terms of saying goodbye. And because we were 296 miles away, and he would have to drive, or I would drive to see him. By the time we got to each other's location, depending on if one was driving in from one location to the next, especially Ken, because Ken is a television reporter here in the United States, here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he would actually start to travel after his live hit, either during maybe the 5 or the 6 o'clock newscast. And so he would usually get to my location a little bit later. Because I am a professor and trainer, I could get there a little early sometimes. So I would arrive a little bit earlier, but no matter what, we still probably had like Saturday, and then here goes Sunday right around the corner, right? So not that much time together, but it felt like a lot of time. And then sometimes it felt like it wasn't enough because of the fact of how in love we are. And I love these moments. Matter of fact, I'm grateful for these moments to be able to share them with you. So let's go back to the jar. As I already talked about the mileage. So I've always loved gratitude jars. I started creating them and then later purchasing them when I was working on my PhD at the University of Florida. Learning more and more about positive psychology, I was inspired to take it to a level that really spoke to me. I'm a very visual person. I'm the one that likes pictures. I love visuals. I'm obsessed with Canva because I love images. I love Instagram. And so I thought, instead of writing down in a diary or journal, I would write mine on these pieces of paper that I would create. Now it was wonderful because of purchasing. You get this beautiful custom, or really, yeah, these beautiful ones that are just really beautifully created. But I would customize mine because I was making mine myself. And I would write down what I was grateful for. And for me as a visual person, I just love seeing the jar just grow, just grow. So Ken and I, when we were, by the way, 296 miles apart, he and I, he really started to pay attention a lot to how much I value gratitude. And those 296 miles, by the way, that I continually talk about, gratitude kind of helped us close the gap on those miles. Ken was inspired by my jar, but he did it with a twist. Instead of just writing down what he was grateful for in general, he focused on me, our relationship, and our time together. And so he would do that during the week. And one point, he did it for a couple of weeks. And what was so beautiful is that he created the jars. There are multiple ones, not one, there's multiple jars. He created the jars and he would give them to me. And so while we weren't together during the week, I would go and I would spend time with those jars. You know, there was my first one, then it was my second one. They started to grow. But I remember the first jar I had in particularly, because I just thought, oh, wow, I just received it. And it was just it still is such a beautiful, beautiful gift. And I remember spending time going in the jar, reading messages, pulling them out, thinking about him, seeing how he sees us, how he sees me, how he feels, is reliving, savoring all these beautiful moments that we were having together. I would go on an adventure in that jar. That jar was an incredible gift. And I am still very grateful for it. So now we are under the same roof. We live together. And those jars are now adorning our home together. They're never too far away. Actually, two are right behind me as I'm speaking to you in the studio. So it tells you how much those jars mean to me and really how much my amazing fiance, Ken, means to me. So I might be a happiness scholar in this family, but I will tell you, I love my fiance. I treasure how he was so inspired by what I do that he created a memorable gift, a very memorable gift, if I could say it today, right? A memorable gift that I will cherish, that I still cherish. So one of my favorite jars is one that I actually purchase and give it out as gifts to friends and or people I may work with and that I am grateful for and all of this is that I love surprising them with a gratitude jar. Also, I have to share this, that the gratitude jar that I have purchased for friends is actually one of Oprah's favorite things. Yep, I said it. Oprah's favorite is my favorite too, which is not surprising. I love all things Oprah, which it could be another show in itself. So if you want to purchase one for you or give it as a gift to someone you love, matter of fact, Father's Day is not too far away, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, right? It's a perfect gift for dads, perfect family gift, as I just mentioned with my fiance, gift for girlfriends, gift to coworkers, or a gift to the teachers, right? Teachers who've experienced so much this year. We all have, right? But you know, when you usually think about Teacher Appreciation Day, gratitude jar is a wonderful gift to give to a teacher or give to anyone. Well, if you're interested in acquiring one of these jars, again, one of my favorite jars that I love to give out as gifts, on my website, you can find it, the top 3, by going to drkortnialston.com/top 3 gratitude. That's DRKORTNIALSTON.com /top3gratitude. So right there on my website, very convenient, you can go and you can check out one, or possibly decide, you know what, I'm also going to fill my home with these top 3 too. I'm going to end the show with a quote by Oprah, right? Oprah Winfrey, of course. And she says this quote, "The more thankful I became, the more my bounty increased. That's because for sure, what you focus on expands. When you focus on goodness in life, you create more of it." Wow. When you focus on goodness in life, you create more of it. I hope this top 3 expands your world, and I hope it allows you to create more too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's continue this conversation online. Email us at podcast@drkortnialston.com. That's podcast@drkortnialston.com. Join us on Instagram at Courting Happiness. Don't forget, that's courting with a K. Also, I hope you join our private Facebook community. You can find us at Courting Happiness Podcast Community. Our private Facebook group is a safe haven to share, meet more people looking to build positive relationships, focus on well-being, and create a happier life. Now, are you ready to spread happiness? We hope you subscribe and share this podcast with your family, friends, coworkers, and all the important people in your world. We release a new episode every Thursday. Congratulations on your continued commitment to your courting happiness journey. Thank you so much for listening. We want you to be well, be happier, and be kinder to yourself. We can't wait to see you next week.